The fourth criteria of a highly effective lesson design really deals with a very powerful aspect of our work. In fact, I've often thought that as teachers of mathematics, this is the most important power we have. And we usually make it like at 11 o'clock at night. So that's, so you got to really think about this in advance. And this fourth criteria centers really on this idea of the choice of the mathematical tasks that you're using to teach the standard for that day. So when we ask the question, what is it we want every child to know and be able to do? Okay, I want you to be able to learn this standard today on understanding equivalent expressions. Great. Now what math tasks am I going to choose? Prompts, problems, tasks, activities, whatever, to have you experience that. And what this issue is really about, this criteria, believe it or not, is that there is a balance of the tasks chosen. And so it might sound strange, but when we look at most math tasks, I would just challenge anybody watching this video, take the next week and just write down, or go and have someone do it for you, whatever, however you want to do it, every single math problem you use in order to teach your lessons for a full week. And how many of them fall in the low cognitive demand tasks? They're kind of procedural knowledge, just memorized facts, perhaps even some procedure without connection, like, solve this equation, 3-step process, or, take 1/4 and divide it by 3/5, invert and multiply, so they're procedures and they're memorized procedures, versus how many tasks do you give the students that are of higher cognitive demand, where I might say, Jonathan claims that when you take 1/4 and divide it by a fraction, you always get a number greater than 1/4. Wow. Okay, so how many of the questions you ask kids to work on in order to teach your standard are of high cognitive demand and low cognitive demand? And without getting to in this video into a deep analysis of what those levels mean, it basically is the complexity of reasoning required in the math problem. I mean, I think we can just simplify it to that thought. And the challenge here is making sure that in your lessons you're choosing a nice balance. Would it be 50-50? And that the students, we're not bailing out on the conceptual knowledge, that understanding you need, which is what we tend to do. We don't mean to, but I think what happens over time is we're like, gosh, they can't do these harder thinking problems. They can't even do the easier problems. That is a myth. We now have a strong neuroscience evidence, brain research evidence, not just in mathematics, but probably in almost every discipline, that if you will first work on the conceptual understanding, then unpack the procedural fluency, you are more likely to learn the procedural fluency, the memorized procedure. So I just want to encourage teachers to have the courage to do that.